On a day when the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir deplored the death of two civilians, including a teenager, to firing by the army, there was a fresh attack outside an army post. A heavily armed terrorist carrying explosives was killed in Poonch. It's been a bloody 6 months for the armed forces in Kashmir. 29 security personnel have been killed in militant attacks since the beginning of the year. Last year, 14 security personnel had been killed. The return of violence in Jammu and Kashmir is now a frightening reality at a time the state government continues to push for the removal of the much maligned Armed Forces Special Powers Act. For a while it looked like Kashmir had made a new beginning. Decades of violence and bloodshed had become things of the past. But the rattle of guns is once again pushing it back to the brink. Militant attacks, encounters and increasing casualties on security forces signal that militancy is trying to make a comeback in Kashmir. Since the morning, security forces and militants engaged in a fierce gun battle in Tral. 3 militants were killed after the 10-hour-long encounter. 1 policeman also lost his life. 3 were injured. The encounter started after security forces came under heavy firing from hold-up militants. Today's encounter is part of a series of militant attacks and encounters in the valley in which security forces have suffered heavy losses. In the last 6 months, 29 security personnel have been killed in militant attacks. In the corresponding period last year, only 3 security personnel were killed in militant attacks. In 2012, only 14 personnel were killed.
2 or 3 incidents which we were not expecting because of our indulgence into the law and order mode, and we were more worried about the law and order eruption, and there has been a bit of the mixing of law and order and the militancy, because of which there are a bit of constraints. If you see in most of these attacks, we had to restrain ourselves so that no collateral damage takes place.
In fact, the valley is facing a serious situation both on militancy and the law and order front. Last week, a day before the Prime Minister visited Kashmir, militants attacked an army convoy in Srinagar, killing 8 soldiers. 2 days before that, there was an attack where militants shot dead 2 policemen in the city. The killing of 2 civilians, including a Class 12 student in army firing in the Sambal area on Sunday, has further accentuated the situation. Massive protests erupted in Bandipur, and the valley observed a complete strike against the killings. The Chief Minister has now reacted angrily to the death of 2 civilians. He's called the incident gruesome and one that was eminently avoidable and needless.
Whenever there is a occasion, always the army is creating trouble in the whole state of Jammu and Kashmir in doing such actions, which ultimately gives the rise to the anger of the people.
While the police have filed a case of murder against unknown army men, the army has regretted the killings and promised action against the guilty. Police sources say the army had violated standard operating procedures, which state that security forces are not supposed to carry out search operations during the night. And even curfew-like restrictions were enforced in the Sambal area. Police say a few people threw a petrol bomb on an army goodwill school in the area, causing damages to the building.
Incidents during the past week point to the tinderbox-like environment in Kashmir, while civilian killings by the army has put both the army and state government in a dock. Militant attacks and heavy casualties on security forces signal that militants are trying to make a comeback in Kashmir. In Srinagar, Nazir Masoodi for NDTV.
All right, a difficult situation in Jammu and Kashmir. On the one hand, you've had this very sad incident on Sunday of 2 civilians, including a teenager, having been killed. But on the other hand, you see repeated attacks on security personnel. Joining us to discuss this, Mehboob Beg, Lok Sabha MP, of the National Conference. Thank you, sir, very much for joining us. Dr. Sameer Kaul, Chief National Spokesperson of the PDP, and Dr. Radha Kumar, member of the Jammu and Kashmir Interlocutors Panel, a historian and author. Thank you all very much for joining us. Mr. Beg, let me come to you first. It's very sad and very tragic what has happened yesterday to those that teenager and the other person who died. And the Chief Minister has regretted the incident. He's hit out at the incident for having taken place. But it comes at a time when there have already been 29 security personnel who've been killed in the first 7 months of this year. Isn't it very difficult now for the state government to actually balance its interests in protecting people in the state against violence and then having to protect people from outside violence, violence triggered by terrorists?
Yes, Vishnu, that's right. It's a very difficult situation, very painful and tragic. And come on, let me repeat what elected Chief Minister of the state said. Not immediately, it was not impulsive reaction to it. After having checked and cross-checked the facts, he has come out with a statement today, and Chief Minister says, and I quote, that it was needless and it was avoidable.